Hello, sports fans. Thank you for joining us tonight on Sideline Sports. I also write for Cardiac Cane, which is why I'm here, writing an article on the Carolina Hurricanes and Nashville Predators series, which was a fantastic series, only the third series in history to have four straight overtime playoff games, which was it was quite the series. But enough about me. I'm here with Pete Weber. Pete Weber is absolutely amazing. If you don't know who Pete Weber is, you do yourself a favor, sports fans. Just go look him up. He's amazing. Pete Weber, thank you for joining me. I appreciate you taking the time out of your night.
John, thank you. Way too much praise. I appreciate it. Believe you me. But let's continue with the conversation you had in mind.
Yeah. So this series, I along with a lot of other Hurricanes people, I thought that this was going to be a relatively easy series because of how the Hurricanes handled the Predators throughout the season. I discount the last two games of the regular season because the Hurricanes were not playing full strength, but the Hurricanes mostly dominated this series, and so I expected more of the same, especially the way the Hurricanes were playing before Jacob Slavin got hurt at the end of the season, before they basically sat their guys for the last two games of the season. But Nashville did come in hot, and Nashville gave them a fight, more fight than I thought. Personally, I thought 2-0. I was like, okay, well, this is going how I expected.
Yeah.
And arguably the loudest arena in all of the NHL, the Hurricanes had to go there, and it kind of changed the tide of the series. So, talk to me a little bit about I guess the beginning of the series, and then once you got them fans involved in Nashville or Smashville, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
Talk to me about how the series changed when we got to Game 3 as well.
Well, and now I'm going to disagree with you on one point. I think the next to last game of the regular year, the Hurricanes still had a little bit to play for. They still had a shot at the President's
Trophy, correct? But
it
did seem that they were kind of letting that go by the wayside. They weren't quite playing all of their guys in the last two games of their year season.
And particularly in Game 56,
right.
They were not. But I'd have to say that those two games played a pretty big role in what was to follow in the playoffs. I think that gave the Predators confidence that they could play with them. Now, when the season started out, the Predators were, 11-16 going into what turned out to be a hot streak, where they won 20, dropped 7, and had one overtime point to finish out the year, which was tremendous for them. A lot of that was the result, and let's say it was a tribute to the team's role players stepping in and taking over leadership with the team. There are various names for this one line. Their fourth line, ostensibly. There is Beast Line, Herd Line, and then the coach used the identity line. So that was primarily Yakov Trenin, Colton Sissons, and then Tanner Jeannot. But in the playoffs, Matthew Olivier came back off injured reserve, so they slotted back and forth on the right wing on that line. But those guys and their work ethic, I think, drove the club considerably. And then we can't overlook possibly the play in goal of UC Saros. And then on defense, little switches down the way. So Roman Josi, who had played so long with Ryan Ellis, all of a sudden was playing with another rookie, Alex Carrier. Here's Carrier, a guy averaging over 20 minutes, even notwithstanding the multiple overtime games. And then Ellis would go with Matthias Ekholm. So I think little changes like that resulted in the team doing better. And then, yes, coming back to Bridgestone Arena for games 3 and games 4. And I counsel everybody, especially in Predators playoff hockey, before you come to the building, make sure you've had a nap. And no place did that turn out to be more true than the first of those double overtime games that started at 7 o'clock Central Time. And then game 4 was a 1:30 Sunday afternoon start. So that went double overtime too. So the guys in less than 48 hours were playing 10 periods of hockey to decide 2 games. That was absolutely incredible. The noise the fans created was something special. The first 2 games, they were allowing roughly 12,000 fans in Bridgestone. And then the final, game 6, was 14,000 some. And I'd have to say that the audio level, and I did not have it with me last night. I usually have an audio meter with me, but was right around what it had been in playoff series here previously with Chicago. And to do that with fewer people made that even more impressive to me.
Yeah, I was gonna say PNC and Bridgestone both sounded like 120,000 people.
Yeah.
They were. I mean, both
Yeah,
arenas were just yeah.
particularly what we've gone through now in this pandemic. And, the games in Canada now, tomorrow's game in Montreal will be the first one where they have any fans whatsoever in a Northern Division game. So I'm going to be curious to take a look at that too. But when you think about how long we played with nobody, I mean, the Predators started out their home schedule with essentially friends and family, about 750 people. That was nice. But I got to tell you, the last few weeks, first 4,000 and then up to 11 and 12, that really was an incredible difference. And I was happy that, as you are now, that I was wearing headphones.
Yeah. And to be honest, I don't believe that the Nashville Predators win either of those game 3 or game 4. I don't think they win those games if there's not fans there. If they just have family and friends, I think that
Yeah.
it's a done deal. It's 4-0 series, and we're not talking about potentially a game 7, almost a game 7.
Yep.
And at game 7, anything can happen. And it was close.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this a lot in game 5, and then it happened again in game 6. I noticed Nashville started to play. If you've done football, you covered the Buffalo Bills for a long time, so you know your football really well. The Nashville Predators almost went into a prevent defense, if you will, much like NFL or cover 4, cover 5. They played extremely conservative.
Not even cover 2? Okay.
Yeah, no. Once they got the lead in game 5, it was and I heard the announcers talking about it a lot. I watched on NBC Sports. They talked about how the Nashville Predators were just dropping all their guys back in defense, and they were forcing the Hurricanes.
Yeah.
Yes. So they're forcing the Hurricanes when they dump it in to work as hard as they can just to get to the puck. Since they essentially had everybody on the ice back, in their own zone. So why did Nashville play so conservative when they got the lead in game 5 and 6? Why did they not keep their foot on the gas?
I have the same question. And that was something that befuddled me and many of my colleagues here. But I think part of it was also how hard they just had to work against a team that I think, and while we were all in our own enclaves, our own divisions all year long and playing nobody else, the Hurricanes were the best team I saw all year. And that, I'm even going to say that over the team they're about to meet in round number 2, the Tampa Bay Lightning. I thought that they played far better than Lightning. Now, obviously, the Lightning also get a couple of components back healthy now as their postseason begins. But the Hurricanes, always in your face, allow very little in the way of movement. And so sometimes I think that's what probably lures teams into feeling they have a need to play that way.
Yes, because watching games 5 and 6, Nashville had the upper hand. They had the momentum in both games.
Yep.
They had no reason to take their foot off the gas. They were the better team, especially in game 5, where they dominated the entire game. And then once Carolina, once Marty Necas got the wraparound goal, to me, that was the end of the game. When he tied that game, I was watching the game, and I said, as soon as the Hurricanes tie it, if they do, they're going to win this game, because you can't prevent defense the entire time and then flip a switch and say, okay, offense, it's time to get rolling. It's hard to do that for any team anywhere in any sport, to just flip a switch in the middle of a game and say, all right, time to turn the offense on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, going back to my years covering the Buffalo Sabres, when they had the French Connection line. See, I've earned my gray hair. When they had the French Connection line, they're always talking about the problem of the Sabres trying to flip on and flip off switches at various times. And that was many times their downfall. But when you have something going your way, I believe in trying to take it to the furthest you can, and then if you lose, so be it.
Now, do you think Yuri Soros can be the face of the franchise for the Nashville Predators? Do you think he's the future for you guys? I know Pecorini kind of stepped aside
Yeah,
gracefully, and he's a class act through and through. Do you think UC Soros is the face? I mean, he's an undersized guy, kind of like Ned is for the Hurricanes. But do you think he's the guy?
could you imagine saying undersized goaltender about 15 years ago before the Pecorines and the
Yeah, the Dominic
Vasilevskis?
Hasek's.
Yeah. Well, Dominic was a not a statuesque sort of guy, but I think that UC can be the guy. And I think he has proven that he is worthy of that. What he did in this, just the regular season, and then in the playoff, which I think adds another layer of respectability to what he has accomplished. Pekka, his contract is up. David Poyle, the general manager here, has said he wants to offer him another, but I think that it would be in a backup role. Pekka 38 now, and UC was the guy he took under his wing, another Finnish goaltender after they came together here, and Pekka really did a great job of showing him the ropes. And then the third goaltender on hand near Kazimir Kaskisuo is another Finnish product. So we're going to try to find if there's another place in this world where goaltenders can be found, because the Predators took Askarov from the Continental Hockey League in the draft last year, and I believe he still has one more contractual year left in the KHL.
Something I was wondering, and it the series really changed even before the series started. I was thinking about this. Jacob Slavin got hurt a couple days before the season ended, before the playoffs started. I believe it was actually against Nashville. He got hurt the second to last game against you guys. Do you think Nashville could have won if Jacob Slavin had not returned? Because the Carolina Hurricanes look like a completely different team. He played in game one, then he didn't play in games
Then they
2
tried
and 3.
Gardner.
And they tried Bean. Bean was, for my money, Bean was not good at all. There was other rookie defensemen that actually played better. I did not like.
The minutes, go through those score sheets
Oh
from the
my
multiple
goodness!
overtime games, and Pesci played 40 plus minutes in one of those, and then very close to it in the following. And again, that's in the compressed 48-hour time frame.
Yes, Pesci was an unsung hero for the Carolina Hurricanes that not a lot of people are talking about. But do you think the Nashville Predators could have won this series had Jacob Slavin not returned? Because the Predators actually looked like the better team when Slavin wasn't there in those couple of games, at least for my money.
It's possible. It's possible. But and obviously we have no way of proving the theory, but it is possible.
Yeah,
and it's possible the Predators could have won Game 6 had Roman Josi not been injured with about 15 and a half minutes to go in regulation.
Yeah, did you get any word on what Roman Josi's condition may have been?
No.
And if he would have been able to return?
We did not. No.
Okay.
That's the way playoff hockey goes.
Of course.
And, it even goes back to now, I think this is going to change because of what has happened with the NHL and the other sports leagues getting together with the gambling interests and all the gambling apps and so on. We know why the NFL has their injury reports on Wednesday and continuously revised going up until kickoff because of the gambling interests.
Now, I was watching when he got hurt, and I noticed when he was holding his head, but I didn't notice a ref step in, kind of like they do in the NFL, and somebody step in and say, okay, this guy's got to go sit. There was nothing of that nature. It was more of the trainers noticed, and he kind of brought that to their attention.
Yeah.
You think that's something in the NHL that needs to be addressed? Because they do that in the NFL when there's a spotter from New York.
Well, there's also a spotter in the NHL.
Is there a spotter in the NHL that does the same?
That will call to the bench and the medical officials in the building and say he needs to go to the quiet room.
Okay, because I didn't see anything from the ref that was right in front of him.
Right.
Ref didn't say anything to him. So I was curious if maybe he would slide into the bench. They could kind of treat him, and then he slide back out into the ice. Because in a playoff game, you don't want to be missing Roman Josi. You don't want his health to be
He went
at
straight back
stake.
down the tunnel. Yeah.
Right. But at the same time, when the playoff games happen and in game 6, you're going to kind of do whatever you can. A lot of teams will kind of do what they can to win that game. So that was something I was wondering whenever I saw him holding his head. I was waiting for the ref to turn around and just say, yeah, you gotta go back and get checked out.
Yep. Well, I'm sure that his reaction to it probably took care of all of that. I don't
Yeah,
think there was a spotter was necessary in that case.
right. Of course. So where do the Nashville Predators go from here? They're a tough team. They're gritty. They have a lot of great role players. For some reason, the first line wasn't the first line.
No.
I believe it was the first game. For some reason, they didn't have that line put together. And I believe game 3, everybody was together. It was Johansson, it was Duchesne, and
Philip. Yeah.
and Philip. Yeah, Philip Forsberg. So why didn't they put that line together from the start, from game 1? Why were they not together?
Matt Duchesne had not played that well, and I think they were hoping two sides of that maybe he would be energized by being put together with those two. And for a while, that did seem to work.
Yeah, I mean, the team seemed energized when they
Yeah.
put those 3 together. I understand because the Carolina Hurricanes do the same exact thing, or they kind of spread out their better players. That way, the other lines do better, they succeed. You have more talent throughout the lineup instead of just on one line. But that first line, when they put those 3 together, the Hurricanes couldn't do anything. Excuse me, they couldn't do anything to stop them. They looked overmatched, and that was even against the Canes' best line. Just watching it, it looked like. I mean, Ned stood on his head a lot of times.
Oh, did he ever?
But I think the Canes also got a lot of luck. There was a lot of luck because there was a lot of times where Forsberg and Johansson really should have had some goals and should have had some game-changing goals that just hit the post, or
Yep.
Ned made an absolutely incredible save, which he did over and over.
Thinking the same thing with Ellie Tolvanen on several power plays. He rang some that I think those goalposts are still probably reverberating someplace right now.
And another question that I had: who do you think played better out of UC Soros and Ned? I don't know how to say Ned's name. I'm not even going to try because I'm going to butcher it.
He's just a good Ohio boy, Nedeljkovic.
Nedeljkovic. Who do you think played better? Because I know who I think.
Well, I think Saros was tested more.
Mm-hmm.
So in that regard, as close as the series was, I think it's quite likely that he did. Nedeljkovic didn't have, no, neither of them had an easy time of it. But the wide disparity in shot attempts, not to mention the shots that got through on goal, I think made a huge difference there.
Yeah, for my money, I actually think UC Soros was the better goaltender in this series.
Yeah.
Which didn't show up that way, obviously.
It doesn't add up, does it?
It doesn't add up. No, it doesn't. Yeah. But I actually think UC Soros played better. He stood on his head more. I just think Ned made the flashier saves, the more timely saves that really kept the Canes in the game. And both goaltenders were fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
But
neither one can point to their goaltender
of course.
For losses. Yeah.
Of course, but for just looking at it, I think UC Soros actually had the better series. But he kept his team in it a lot of times. So did Ned. But UC deserves a lot of credit for how far your Nashville Predators took the Hurricanes in this series. A lot of respect to UC because I really didn't know about UC Soros until this series. I didn't know a whole lot about UC. And I found out a lot about him.
Yeah, that he's darn good. That's
he's a darn good goaltender, and we'll remember his name next year. So where do the before I let you go, where do the Nashville Predators go in this offseason? How do they get better? Because they have a good team, they have a lot of good role players, but elite players. Yeah. You got a couple elite players, but then you kind of fall down a lot whenever it comes to how good the players really are and competing with the likes of Carolina and Tampa Bay because you need what they have. They have a lot of great players and they have a lot of really good players, and then they have a lot of good role players.
I think playing in this pandemic-induced division this season. Probably will help them
Mhm.
moving back to their old Central Division, though it's not all the old Central Division because Seattle comes in,
Mhm.
and that's going to push Arizona into the Central Division. So it'll be back going against Winnipeg, Minnesota, Chicago, St. Louis, Dallas, Colorado, and Arizona. So that is going to be a little bit more, I think, difficult, and at least that's the way it shapes up in
Yeah.
my mind right now. I know St. Louis was disappointed. I spoke with their announcer, Chris Kerber, today because it was his birthday. I spoke with him, and I speak with Tommy Reed in Minnesota quite a bit, and all looking forward to getting back together, though. Tommy Reed still has a different sort of situation going on right now
Yeah.
with the Wild playing at T-Mobile Arena tonight in game number 7.
Yeah. And that game, as I said before, that series has just been amazing. A lot of people didn't give the Wild any credit, obviously, because
No,
the Golden Knights were amazing all year, but I actually picked the Wild at the beginning of the playoffs. That was my upset of the playoffs, or at least upset of the first round.
yeah. Well, I've, and it's amazing to me that it's been so long since this is their 4th game 7 in franchise history, but how long it has been since they had the other, and that goes way back early in the team's years, including that one year where they, scored. Andrew Burnett scored the last goal given up by Patrick Waugh in game 7 of a series with Minnesota and Colorado. So that was a special memory for a lot of people. But Minnesota is properly labeled the state of hockey, at least in this side of the border. I don't think there's any question about that. And we see their products populate many of our rosters throughout the league. And they have a couple of pretty good ones of their own, homegrown, including one who started his career here, Ryan Suter. And boy, it's 9 years now since he left for there as a
I,
free agent.
that's a long time. I remember Ryan Suter. I remember PK Subban,
Yes,
guys like that. It's been a while. I mean, since they've had those guys. So yeah, I can't
Shea
believe it's been
Weber.
9 years.
Yeah,
Yeah. Shea Weber. It's been a long time. Now that you say that, I feel kind of old.
I know I am. So if you feel that way, that's all right. I don't think that
Yeah,
you are, but I understand.
my hockey started when I was a little kid. And got to see Mike Modano and Brett Hall. That was when I first started watching hockey.
Yeah.
So I've been watching a lot of hockey
So
in
you go
my
back to
life.
Ken Hitchcock. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Those are. It's been a while. I love my hockey. So I appreciate you taking time out of your night to join me here on Sideline Sports. I'm gonna shut down the recording, and then you and I can talk off air a little bit
Okay.
because it's always nice to get to talk to you. But thank you, fans, for tuning into our show. Check out my article on cardiaccane.com. That will be up in the next couple of days. Thank you, Pete Weber, for joining me. It's absolute honor, incredible honor. I'm a gigantic sports fan, all 4 sports. So this
So am
meant the
I.
world. This meant the world to me
Yeah.
to get to talk to somebody of your stature. So
Thank you much, John. I appreciate that.
thank you guys, and tune into Sideline Sports Tuesday nights at 8:30. See you then.